what are some of the things we should be trying to do when we first wake up in the morning? So like a lot of people I know go straight to the coffee machine and rip a coffee in.
Your coffee 60 to 90 minutes if you can, because you actually want adenosine competing for caffeine. So you want to actually allow the adenosine to bind, and you want the caffeine to be more effective and avoid the afternoon crash. So if you actually can delay your coffee 60 to 90 minutes, there is a lot of sound research that shows that it's tremendously more beneficial. I'll tell you exactly what I do. I wake up, I go in and brush my teeth. I tongue scrape, floss, and then I do something called oil pulling, which is just I take a little scoop of organic coconut oil, and I put it in my mouth and I swish it around. You're supposed to do it for a prolonged period of time. I do it for 2 or 3 minutes, and I spit it in the trash can. And then I go in the other room and I take a few really, really, really deep breaths, and I get right in a cold plunge.
Wow. Cold plunge first thing in the morning, summer, winter.
Right. Summer, winter, year round. I have a pathway in my house and I force myself to do it. So I earn my way to the coffee maker. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but the next phase is really important. Probably my favorite biohack is a sea salt called Baja Gold, like a $10 bag. Of this thing will last you probably 5 years. And it has all 91 of the trace minerals that we need. And so many of us are mineral deficient. We don't realize the power of minerals. And we take an electrolyte, but electrolyte mixes are usually the big three because consumers recognize those: potassium, magnesium, and sodium. There are 91 other minerals that you need: magnesium, molybdenum, silica, boron, zinc, manganese. There's so many different minerals that we need, and you can get them naturally from a mineral salt. So I take an 8 or 10 ounce glass of water. I actually squirt Baja Gold sea salt. It comes in a liquid form. I throw 2 hydrogen tablets in there. They're called H2 tabs. They're elemental magnesium that when you drop them in water, turn into pure hydrogen gas. And I put a scoop of something called perfect aminos, which does not break a fast. It's equivalent to 29 grams of protein, and it has all 9 of the essential amino acids. And I mix that up and I whack it back. I hydrate, mineralize, reduce my inflammation, and I give my body the amino acids that it needs to do its job.
This is like maybe 20, 30 minutes up. This would be straight after your ice bath or your cold plunge.
I'm awake, 15, 20 minutes after I'm awake.
And how long does someone like Gary Brecka stay in the cold plunge? What are you talking about? What sort of temperature are we talking about?
3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum.
Three minutes?
There is no evidence that colder is better or longer is better.
Right. So cold, when you say cold, we're talking about what, 8 degrees Celsius? What would you be?
48 to 52 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so that's at 14, 22. That's about right. So that's about 10 degrees. So that's about 10 degrees. Yeah, so that's
no evidence that colder is better. Why? Because once you get a peripheral vasoconstriction, as you get colder, you don't get a stronger vasoconstriction. Once you activate brown fat, you don't get a higher activation by making it colder. Once you have a release of cold shock proteins, colder temperatures do not release more proteins. Once you have dopamine activation and a flood of dopamine into your brain, you don't have a higher dopaminergic response because you've lowered the temperature. So you want the minimum dose for the maximum output. And at 6 minutes, from nearly all the studies that I've read, it appears to trail off almost to zero. So if you're staying in longer than 6 minutes, it's just a man thing. And if you're going much colder, that's also a man thing or a personal preference, but you do not need to torture yourself. Remember, we're trying to cold shock the body, not cold adapt the body.
Yeah, and so, but do you actually get in a warm shower after it? I mean, once you've done that, I mean, because let's say it's the middle of winter, I've tried it. I mean, sometimes I feel like I stay cold.
Stay cold and then do your morning routine and then take a warm shower before you go off to the office.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. So, and then since we're talking about Gary Brecka's program, when do you start to do your exercise? When is your training routine?
So then I'll get out of the cold plunge. I'll go down. I'll make that cocktail that I told you about, and then I go straight outside and I do breath work. I go right out on my balcony. I face the sun. I expose my skin to sunlight. For about 8 to 12 minutes. And I sit there and I just do 3 rounds of 30 obnoxiously deep breaths with a breath hold in between. And I look out in the direction of the sun, not at the sun, look out in the direction of the sun, and I'm just still for a few minutes. And I'll lightly stretch sometimes during that. I'm sitting Indian style, just lightly stretch. I'm not really pushing my body. I'm just hydrating, mineralizing, putting oxygen in my body, and light, which I'll go over when I come to Australia. I'll give you all the details, but it is astounding how good sunlight is for you first thing in the morning. Regulating your cortisol receptors, regulating your melatonin receptors, resetting your circadian clock. We are creatures of habit. We are circadian biological creatures. We are so out of tune with the circadian cycle of the earth that getting back in tune with that is very healthy for you. In fact, Whoop did a study and concluded that morning sunlight and consistent bedtimes were the two biggest things that determine sleep quality.
And just on the 30 breaths, I try that too. And sometimes I get a bit dizzy. Is that an issue?
That's the oxygen tension changing in your tissues. That's a very good sign.
That's a good sign. Mm-hmm. I should be looking for that.
That's why you shouldn't be driving or standing up or in the shower. You should be seated in a safe place, on a couch, on a chair. And if you get really dizzy, then slow down or stop. Yeah. But that is the oxygen tension changing in your tissues.
Okay, so I'm looking at you, and you're pretty packed. You're looking pretty fine there. You're looking good, dude. So
you're good.
Yeah. So what and because obviously sleep, nutrition, which is what your first thing you're doing in the morning, but you've had a good sleep, you good nutrition, like with the mineralization.
Yeah, and then I'll go down stairs or into the gym and weight train.
So what are we talking about here? So because I often listen to Peter Attia, and I listen to Andrew Huberman and yourself. And I think to myself, sometimes I don't have enough hours in the day to get all this stuff done.
That routine that I just told you, I'm 20 minutes into my day.
So what about training though? Because they tend to train. Look, it seems to me like Peter Attia trains like for 3 hours a day or something. I don't know, but it's because like if I do aerobic, I do some mobility stuff. I'm a wrestler, so I love to do my jiu-jitsu 3 times a week, and then on top of that, I do some weight training. I think, wow, yes. I don't, and then I go through. Then I do 150 minutes of zone 2. I'm running out of time, dude. Tell me about it.
No. So if you're weight training and don't think that you can get a cardiovascular workout by weight training, you're not weight training properly, right? I mean, you can keep a pace with weight training, a safe pace between sets that allows you to get your heart rate up and to also tear and challenge your muscles to cause the hypertrophy and the hypertrophic and the hyperplastic response. The truth is, if you want to live a long time, you need to lift heavy weight. And by heavy weight, I don't mean compound lifts, back squats, heavy bench press, but you need to challenge your body. Dumbbells, barbells, cable workouts, even body weight exercises, taken close to a rep of failure, not all the way to failure, but taken close to that. Because by challenging and strengthening the body, you're tapping what's called the hormetic response, and it will strengthen in response. Muscle is our metabolic currency, and meaning that muscle is a sponge for glucose. It holds our skeletal system erect. It actually makes hormones. It produces things called endorphins. So frailty is one of the greatest risks to longevity. There's something called sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle wasting, which occurs in the latter stages. It actually occurs in the earlier stages of life, 40s, 50s, 60s. And so we want to fight sarcopenia. So we want to challenge our body. So I would say weight training a minimum of 3 days a week. And if you love jujitsu, you should do jujitsu. If you love to cycle, you should cycle. If you love Pilates, you should do Pilates. You should find what you like. Like you shouldn't not want to exercise. But weight training minimum 3 days a week is a must.